Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. In this video, I'll be coding the user interface for a medical application with Flutter. Quick backstory behind why I'm doing this. In 6th form, I was part of a project where we were working with the local GP to create a new way of communication between doctors and patients during the pandemic. I wanted to study medicine at the time and I love programming, so it was a perfect opportunity for me to bring the two together. I suggested that we build a mobile application and everyone agreed. So we decided that I would do the development while everyone would tell me what features to add and the additions to put in. However, just as the idea was materializing, the doctor that we were working with had to go on maternity leave, so my dreams were crushed. But this morning I woke up and I had the thought, why not code the medical app and use it for a video on YouTube? So that's what we're doing today. First thing that I'm going to do is go into dribble.com and just look for some ideas for medical applications, specifically for the UI. Yes, I spelled medical wrong. My apologies. So hopefully you can get a good idea of what type of user interfaces to look for. I like this one, it's quite simple, black and white. But what I don't like about it is that there's no homepage that we can see. And obviously that's the main thing that we want to code. I do like this page though, where we have details about a specific doctor, how many patients they have had, and experience as well. I think we'll keep this as an idea, but in terms of the homepage, we need to find another one. So I think let's look this one. This one looks quite nice. It's a bit more colorful. We'll decide on the color scheme later, but I do like how we have a profile and it says welcome back. We have our consultations with a set date. And we also have different profiles. This could probably either be for doctors or for patients as well. So I think we'll use this one as a homepage, and we can use the other one for a specific page about the doctors. And I think that's all we're going to code in this video. Okay, so as you can see here, we have opened up a new Flutter application. It's just showing the demo application that it comes with. I've named it medical app, but you can name it whatever you want if you're following along. And I also have an Android emulator running to show us what the app looks like in real time. I have the UIs open on my other screen just so I can look at them while I'm coding. Okay, to start off with, I'm going to delete this whole theme data because we're not going to use that. And I can delete all the comments as well. And I also want to delete this whole class called my homepage because we're going to create our own pages. Let's create a stateful widget called main page and return it here. I'm just going to quickly rename this medical app. Okay, now technically if you run this, it should work. Just to test it out, let's return a text widget that says test. Hot restart this, and as you can see, everything's working fine because we have the text that we wanted. Now just to show you, instead of text, let's return a scaffold. And as you can see, it turns the whole screen white. So a scaffold widget is the base layer for any Flutter application. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, well actually before that, let's just quickly take away this debug banner because it doesn't look nice there. Okay, now we can start coding the UI. First thing I want to do is add a bottom navigation bar. Now the bottom navigation bar takes a list of items. So we'll add a bottom navigation bar item. Let me just quickly format this because I don't like how it isn't formatting. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is copy and paste this bottom navigation bar item because we need at least 2 to avoid any errors. And each item takes an icon widget. Boom. And for this one, I'll just do the same thing for now, but I'll change them later. Now this will give us an error still because we need to add a label to each one. So I'm just going to add a string. Okay, now if we save this and run it, as you can see, we have a simple navigation bar with 2 items. Okay, before we add the other items, I just want to quickly change something about the navigation bar. I'm going to make show selected labels false and also show unselected labels false. This is because I don't really like how it looks with the labels, so I want it to just have the icons there. Now what we can do is, before we add any more, let's quickly make the icon black. Colors.black. Let's change this one. The second item will have a calendar widget, because this is going to be the tab about schedules and your appointments. I'm just going to copy and paste this 3 more times. The third one is going to be a search tab. Okay, so the last one is going to be a accounts tab. And the fourth one, I don't really like what it is here, but I think I might just change it to a notification tab. So now, as you can see, we have a nice bottom navigation bar with 5 different items to switch between each page. Now the formatting is a bit weird, so to fix this, what we can do is go to bottom navigation bar and make the type a bottom navigation bar type dot fixed, and this will space out the items evenly, as you can see. Okay, so I just went ahead and changed the labels for each of these for each of these navigation bar items. It doesn't really matter too much because you can't see them, but I just did it for the sake of it. Now I'm going to make a variable here called current page, and this is going to control which page we're currently on. Okay, we're going to set it to 0 because in the beginning we want it to be on the first index, which is the home page. And what we can do here is we can check that if current page is equal to 0, then we can show this icon, and if it isn't, then what we can do is copy this and paste it here. And what we can do instead is show the same icon, but this time we can grey it out. So what I like to do is a grey and the shade is 700. Now if we save this, as you can see, it remains black because the index is 0. However, if we change the current page to 2, for example, and we reload this, the home button changes to a grey color. I think that's fine, but I also want to, instead of making it just grey, I also want to change the type of icon it is. I want to change it to an outlined icon, just like this. So if we save it again, as you can see, it becomes outlined and grey. And if we change the current page back to 0, it becomes filled and it becomes black. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to copy and paste this logic for each of the navigation bar items, so that whenever we click on one, depending on the page that we're currently on, it will either turn filled and black, or it will remain grey and outlined. Okay, so as you can see right now, I've copied and pasted the logic for each of the navigation bar items, and if you look at the highlighted one, you can see that if the current page is the first page, then the icon stays black, and if it isn't the first page, then it remains outlined and grayed, and that's the same for each of the other items with respect to its corresponding page. Okay, the next step what we want to do is for the current index, we want to assign it to the variable we created of current page, and this won't really do anything at the moment. To make it actually do something, we need to add the onTap function, and what this will do, it will trigger a function every time we tap on a navigation bar item. So what we want to do, it takes a value. I'm just going to rename this to index so it's much more easier to follow. And what we're going to do with the index is we're going to set the state of the application to where the current page variable becomes the new index. Here we go. So now what should happen is every time we click a navigation bar item, the current page should change to the index of the item, and therefore each of the navigation bar items would change depending on which one is selected. So let's try it out. So I reloaded the application. Now, as you can see, if I click on the calendar, we move to the first index and the calendar item becomes black, and it's the same for each of the other icons. And now it's just a nice user interface where the user can actually identify which page they're on via the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen. One last thing I want to do with this navigation bar is change the elevation to 0, because if you look at the UIs that we're following, there isn't this kind of lip underneath the navigation bar. Okay, so the next thing in our application is we need to code the actual pages, and for that I'm going to create a new folder called pages, and within this folder I'm going to create 5 new files for each of the pages. So one, for example, will be the home page, and I'm going to create a stateful widget called homepage. And for now, I'm just going to return a scaffold with a different background color just to show you that it's a different page. Now in our main.dot file, what we need to do is create a new list. And this will hold the pages that we have. For now we only have one, so I'll show you this just for demonstration purposes. And of course we need to import this. It's already done it for us. And now what we can do is add a body to the main scaffold. And for this body we can have an indexed stack widget. And this index stack widget takes an index, and we're going to set this to our current page variable. And it also takes children, and for the children we're going to pass in our screens list. Okay, you can call this whatever you want. You can call it screens or pages or anything, but I'm just going to call it screens. So now everything should be working. So now when we switch to each of these icons, depending on the index of it, it will change to the index of the page in this list. So at the moment we only have one, so we can't really change to anything else. But when it's on the home icon, it will stick on the home page that we have here, which should be black. So if we reload this, as you can see, it turns black because we're on the home. And if we come off that tab, it changes back to white. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create 4 more pages and do the same thing, add them to the screens list here. And once I'm done, I'll show you guys how it all works together. Okay, so as you can see here, I've done the same thing for each of the other pages, and I've actually changed what's inside them. I've changed them to show which page it is and to have a circular progress indicator. These 4 pages, the last 4 pages, we actually won't code, so this is going to stay like that. But for the home page, is the page that we're actually going to code. So for this, we're going to change it over here. Okay, so let's start with the home page. First thing I'm going to do is take away everything in the body, and we actually are going to have a column here, because everything in the home page is basically inside a column. The column takes children, and the first child we're going to have is a container, and this container is going to act like our app bar, but we're not actually going to have a specific app bar. This is going to be our custom one. And the container, just so we can see it, let's make it black, because otherwise it's going to be camouflaged with the background. Colors.black. In fact, let's make it grey just so we can see anything that's black as well, like text. Also, what we're going to do is we are going to give it some width and height. And what I'm going to do is use media query to make a custom width and height relative to the phone size, the screen size, sorry. So for width, it's going to be the maximum width. So we use media query dot of context dot size dot width, and this will give us the maximum width of the screen. And for height, we'll do a similar thing, but instead we're going to do the height divided by, let's try 8. That's a bit too small, let's try 7. Okay, so as you can see, we have a container at the top of the screen. Now what we can do is add a child, and the child in the container is going to be a row because everything is beside each other. The first child in the row is going to be a circular avatar. Next we're going to have text, but there's actually 2 text widgets on top of each other, so we need to create a column. So we have a column, and after this column of text we have an icon button, not an icon button, which has an onPress function. I'm going to leave that empty for now. And we also have an icon, and this icon is a widget. It's going to be a menu icon for us in our case. Okay, now let's see how this looks so far. As you can see, we have a circular avatar, we have a column, but there's nothing inside the column so far, and we have a menu item. Let's add something in the column. So we're going to have 2 text widgets. The first one, the second one is the profile name, so I'm just going to write CodeZee, and the first one is going to have welcome back. So now as you can see, we have the text as well. And what I'm going to do is wrap the entire column of the page in a safe area widget, if it lets me. Okay, I'm going to wrap it in a safe area widget, and what this does is it makes sure that all the widgets inside the safe area is visible on the screen, and it's not blocked by any of the actual phone's user interface. So if we save this, as you can see, it shifts the column just a bit down so it's not blocked by anything else. Okay, now we can do some formatting. Let's make this row the main axis alignment space between, because we want a space between each of these widgets. Now as you can see, there's space between. What we can do is bring this text into the center by making the main axis alignment of the column main axis alignment center. Now as you can see, it's all centered. However, if we look at the UI of our application that we're following, the text is not in the center, it's actually next to the circular avatar. So what we can do is take away the circular avatar and the column, and actually create another row inside the existing row that we already have. And as the children, we can then paste the circle avatar and column. Now what we have is a row, and inside this row we have another row and then the icon button at the end. So if we save this, we can see the text goes next to the circular avatar. And now what we can do is just add a size box in between the two to give it some spacing, and we'll give it a width of, let's say, 20. Sorry, I'm missing a comma here. Yep, I think that works well. Okay, now with the sizing, we can increase the circle avatar radius to about 30. That might be a bit too big. Let's try 24. I think that's fine. And in terms of the icon button, let's increase the size of the icon for a little bit. Size can be, let's try same as the 24. And maybe default size 30. Yep, 30 is fine, I think. Now what we can do is, within this whole column, I'm going to wrap this with padding, because I think everything in the home page is going to have slight padding on the side. So let's add padding, and I'm going to make it symmetric, and we can do horizontal of about 20, and that's fine. Now obviously the container isn't going to stay grey, so let's change it back to white, and that looks good. I think I've just realized that the container is white but the actual scaffold isn't, so let's change the scaffold background color to white. So now as you can see, we have a nice app bar. Let's just format the text a little bit. So I think welcome back. Let's style. And in the style we're going to, let's just format it so you can see. Firstly, let's grey it out. So we're going to add colors dot grey. Secondly, let's make it bold. Okay, now for the name of the profile, let's do the same thing, add some text style. And it's going to stay black, but we are going to change the font weight to font weight dot bold again. So font weight dot bold. and let's change the font size to about 24, so it's quite large. There we go, and I think that is a good enough app bar for us. Okay, so next I'm going to create a new folder called widgets. We are going to create our custom widgets in this folder. Let's create a title bar dot, and here we're going to create a stateless widget called title bar, and this is going to, let's quickly import material dot. So we're going to return a row, and this row is going to take children. The first child is going to be a text widget, and the second child is going to be an icon button. Okay, so the icon button is a arrow that's pointing to the right, and I just changed the size to be 33. Now the text is going to be dynamic, so we're not going to actually hard code any string in there. We're going to take a final string of title here. We need to add it to the constructor. It has to be required this dot title, and now we can use it here. Let's just add some styling to this title as well. So the styling that we are going to have is, it's going to be slightly larger, so we're going to have font size is going to be 20, and let's also make it bold. Okay, that should be fine for now. Now what we do, we're going to go back to the home page, and underneath our app bar, the next thing we need in the column is the title bar, and let's give it some text because we need to give it a title, and the title will be upcoming consultations. And of course we need to import the title bar, so if you just hover over it, you can have a quick fix and we can import the library widgets title bar dot. Now if we save this, as you can see, we have a title bar underneath. Now I don't want the arrow to be right next to the text, so let's go back to the title bar file, and inside the row let's do main axis alignment and do some space between. I think that looks a lot better, and as you can see, the padding that we added from the column in the home page still applies to this as well, so it's not hugging the edges of the screen, it's in the center. Okay, so now under the title bar let's add a row, and this is going to hold our upcoming consultations. So in the children of the row, I'm actually going to add a custom widget called consultation card, and I'm going to create this in our widgets folder over here. So let's create a new file called consultation card dot, and this is going to be a stateless widget. Now I'm actually going to code this off camera and then come back and explain it to you, just because it might take a while for me to figure out what looks best and all the intricacies of the widget. So I'll just code it off camera, and once I'm done I'll come back and explain to you what I've done. Okay, so what we have here is the consultation card. We have a dynamic name and color. This is the name of the doctor, and this is the background color of the container. So I gave the container specific height and width, and I also gave it the custom background color that we specified. It has rounded corners with a border radius, and inside the container we have a circular avatar for a placeholder, which is supposed to be the doctor's profile picture. Underneath that we have the time and date of the appointment or consultation, and then we have the name of the doctor, and we have an outline button which is supposed to let us join the call. Now of course I added some sized boxes and spaces just for the spacing and positioning of the widgets. Now if you go back to the home page, and as you can see I've added the consultation card here, we need to import the file, and we can do it automatically. And now we need to add the color, and for demonstration purposes I'm just going to add a random color. Let's do colors.red, and a random name. Let's do CodeZee, and if we save this we can see that we have a consultation card, which is our custom widget. We have the profile picture, the time and date, the name of the doctor, and the button that says join call. Now if you look at our UI that we're following, and it's supposed to be scrollable. So what we're going to do for now is I'm going to copy and paste this consultation card within the row and paste it a few more times so we have multiple. Now if you save this, as you can see, we get an error because there's an overflow, meaning that there's not enough space on the screen to fit as many widgets that we're specifying. And to battle this, we are going to wrap this row in a single child scroll view, and we need to specify the direction, and we're going to make it axis.horizontal. Now as you can see, we can scroll along this row and we have all our specified containers here. Now I'm just going to make this, for that I'll just use a sized box, and I'll make the width of the sized box 15. So now as you can see, we have a nice bit of width in between it. So let's copy and paste the sized box to be in between all of them. Now as you can see, we have 3 consultation cards side by side and it's scrollable. Okay, now I'm just going to look at the UI and add the proper names and colors. Okay, now underneath the consultations, I'm going to add another title bar, and this is one of the advantages of using modular programming and reusable components, because we don't need to hard code the title bar again. We can just reuse the custom widget that we've already made. This one's going to be called let's say practitioner profiles. Okay, now if we save this, hopefully. Okay, so I accidentally put the title bar within the row. This was supposed to go outside the row after it in the column here. So now if we save it, as you can see, we have practitioner profiles. Now I just want to take this a bit lower because I think it's too close to the row of consultation. So to do this, I will wrap this row, or wrap this scroll view rather, in some padding, and I'm going to make it symmetrical, and the vertical padding will be, let's say, 10. I think that's fine. So for practitioner profiles, we're going to do something very similar. So we're going to add a row, and this row will have children, and for now I'm just going to add a circle avatar, and let's add a few actually, so we have quite a few. And as you can see here, we have a row of circle avatars. Now what I'm going to do is so what we can do is wrap this row within a single child scroll view, and of course we need to specify the direction, which is going to be axis.horizontal. And now as you can see, you can scroll. Again, let's add a sized box for some spacing. What we can do is, for the first size circular avatar we have in here, we need to add a child. In fact, let's change the background color first, and the background color can be colors.green, and the child here needs to be an icon, and this icon I'm not sure what color that is, but just to make sure, I'm just gonna make it colors.white. Okay, that's fine. And now as you can see, we have a row, scrollable row of practitioner profiles. Okay, so under here, let's add another title bar, and for the title, let's name it My Health Details. I'm going to add some padding to the single child scroll view, just as we did before. Okay, that's fine. And now what we're going to do is, underneath this, I'm just going to make a simple interface where we have different containers, just to show where we can click on and access some different details about our health. It's going to be very simple for now. I'm not going to actually add anything inside it. any details, but we're going to use a grid view builder, in order to get this grid effect with the different containers. So for the grid delegate, we're going to use a sliver grid delegate with a fixed cross-axis count, and we need to specify the cross-axis count. I'm going to make it 2. Let's try 3 actually and see how it looks. Then for the item builder, we need to give it context and also an index, and then we need to give it a return function where we return a container. This container will have decoration, which will be a box decoration, and inside here we can give it a color. For now I'm just going to give it a single color, colors.yellow, but in the future we can randomize a color so each container has a different color. We can also give it a border radius dot all and radius dot circular of 20. If we save this, as you can see, nothing happens. We need to wrap the grid view builder in an expanded widget, so it takes the maximum space that it can, expanded, and we need to wrap the container in some padding so each of the 3 containers in a row has space between each other. So let's wrap it in padding and save that. I think 3 is a bit too much. Let's change it to 2. Okay, so now as you can see, we have a scrollable grid of different containers, and what we could do is add inside the container some text saying, for example, my heartbeat, or your blood type, etc. I think you could add it in here, but for now I think that's fine for the UI. Okay, just a basic layout. So I think the video is going to end there. I wasn't planning to make the video as long as it is, but it dragged on, so I think we're going to end the video there, and maybe I'll release a part 2 to this video where I actually expand on the UI a bit more. I'll create a few more pages and maybe even do some of the backend so that we have a working application. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found it interesting. For those of you who don't know about Flutter or mobile application development, hopefully I inspired some of you guys to get into mobile application development, because it's actually very interesting. But if you guys want to see more videos or tutorials of me coding specifically with Flutter, let me know. And until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.